Well, Jim Acosta is a liberal Democrat. I don't care what he's registered as. That doesn't matter. It's obvious what he is. He's a liberal Democrat plant in the Democrat media. And Jim Acosta is confused. It's not the Jim Acosta press conference. It's the president's press conference. If Jim Acosta wants to have a press conference, I guess he should run for president. But he's like the punk in the classroom who keeps disrupting the teacher. But he's challenging, you see, Trump because he's a serious journalist. No, he's not. He argues with the president over his beliefs versus the president's beliefs. And I must say, I was very proud of the president today. He handled that mob of so-called reporters beautifully. Just like a principal where students don't behave themselves. Just like a father where the children don't behave themselves. You can't talk about us that way in the media when you conduct yourselves like punks. Then that's what you are. You would never do this to Barack Obama. Never, ever. You were furious last night when you saw those numbers come in. And by the way, I don't believe any network should be calling the entire House race by 9:30 at night. Even if they think they're right. It influences elections further out on the West Coast where people might stay home. Look at Rohrabacher. Rohrabacher lost by a few hundred votes. Just hold your fire. Keep your powder dry. But our analysts are so good. It doesn't matter. That's not the point, your analysts. This is about an American election. And people are still voting. You know, I get information in here, and I can be the first out of the block many, many times with information, but I wait. The issue isn't being the first out of the block. The issue is doing what's right. Anyway, should we have some fun? Should we listen to the President of the United States slap around Jim Acosta as he had to be? As he had to be, or it would be the Jim Acosta press conference. Let's take a try at it, shall we? Cut 2, go.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to challenge you on one of the statements that you made in the tail end of the campaign in the midterms.
Here we go.
If you don't mind, Mr. President, that this caravan was an invasion. As you know, Mr. President,
I consider it to be an invasion.
As you know, Mr. President, the caravan was not an invasion. It's a group of migrants moving up from Central America towards the border.
Now let's stop right here. What is the point of this question? Is it to elicit useful information for the American people? Is it to determine the policy that the president's putting in place? You understand what I mean? That is the role of a journalist. But he wants to dispute the use of this word, which they've been doing over at CNN for some time, and calling the president directly or indirectly a racist. So this isn't even the role of a journalist. It's a role of a candidate. You want to run against somebody and say, look, I don't agree with your use of that word. But this isn't the role. We learn nothing from this. This is an attempt to try and embarrass the president and pitch. What did he think the president was going to say? But this is really good stuff at CNN. I think we are witnessing, ladies and gentlemen, the dumbest gaggle of journalists in American history. Truly stupid people. I really do. I really do. To be a doctor, you got to go through all kinds of education and training and sleepless nights and this and that. To be a lawyer, you got to take the bar and the CLE, and you got to try this, and you got to try. To be a teacher, you got to get a certificate. You got to be a firefighter, police, all kinds of standards. Tell me, what are the standards to becoming a journalist? Can you name any? There aren't any. There are none. No intelligence tests, no physical tests, nothing. Go ahead.
U.S.
Thank you for telling me that.
Why did you characterize it as such?
Because I consider it an invasion. You and I have a difference of opinion.
Do you think that you demonized immigrants?
No, stop. You see, this is posed as a question from a reporter, but it's not. It's an allegation from a liberal Democrat. That's all it is. Go ahead.
I want them to come into the country, but they have to come in legally. You know, they have to come in, Jim, through a process.
Now, this used to be the position of both parties 10, 15 years ago. That is, you secure the border. People cannot come here illegally. If they do, they're to be deported. We want immigrants. Immigrants come through the front door, through a process, so we can vet them, so we can determine, who's coming and who's going and so forth. Seems very rational, was the position of both parties. Now it's not. The position of the Democrat Party is anarchy on the border, and that's the position of the media. As you can see, they really never disagree, because it's the Democrat media. Go ahead.
And I want people to come in, and we need the people.
Your campaign.
Wait. You know why we need the people, don't you? Because we have hundreds of companies.
Why doesn't he even shut the hell up and let the president finish answering? Because he's got more allegations he wants to make. That's why. Now, and by the way, before we go on, now the gentleman who the president has chosen as the acting attorney general is being trashed on all cable networks. And I mean all cable networks. Being trashed on all cable networks. Go ahead.
Need the people.
But your campaign had an ad showing migrants climbing over walls and so on.
No. You can't show that. You got to show migrants as rocket scientists. Migrants doing heart surgery. Or migrants doing jobs Americans won't do. That's what you have to do. Climbing walls, breaking down fences. You're not allowed to show that, even though that's what took place during the migrant parade, as I said. Call it a parade. The parade that's been going on. Go ahead.
Not going to be doing that.
They weren't actors. Well, no, it's true. Do you think they were actors? They weren't actors. They didn't come from Hollywood. These were people. This was an actual, it happened a few days ago. And
they're hundreds of miles away, though. They're hundreds and hundreds of miles away.
So stop. What does that have to do with anything? They've announced themselves. They've said what they intend to do. The groups that are behind them have said why they're doing it. This isn't 300 years ago. We have enough technology to know that they're coming. They've said what they intend to do. So whether they're 900 miles away or 9 feet away, would Mr. Acosta be satisfied if the president said, coming invaders? Is that what he prefers? No. It's a caravan. Oh, that sounds like a caravan of undocumented future citizens. Oh, yes. Prepared to do jobs Americans won't do? Well, thank God for them. Who are they? I don't know. Where are they from? I don't know. Any criminals? I don't know. Any terrorists? I don't know. But it's a caravan. Oh, okay. Next time you're stopped by a police officer on the street, you're in traffic, and maybe you have a minor automobile violation of some kind, just say, hey, I'm in a caravan. I'm in a caravan. And I'm 8 miles from my house. I'm in a caravan and I'm 8 miles from my house, officer. Oh, okay, go right ahead. Anyway, go ahead.
Honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN, and if you did it well, your ratings.
Let me ask you, if I may ask one other question, Mr. President. If I may
now, see right there, Acosta wants to take it over. No president would put up with this, but CNN claims no responsibility for this man's conduct. No accountability for this man's conduct. They keep sending him back in there. CNN is a corporation. It is a subsidiary of Time Warner. And they're sending this man into these press conferences to disrupt this press conference, which really obstructs the American people from learning more information about what the president's doing or what he plans to do. This doesn't help the republic. This isn't freedom of the press. This is a street disruptor dressed up in a suit. Go ahead.
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President, I was going to ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr. President.
Now, the young lady on the White House staff is trying to take the microphone and give it to the next person, and Jim Acosta comes very close to assaulting her. Doesn't actually assault her, but very close. Kind of shoving her away, bullying her. And isn't it interesting that nobody in big media Nobody in big media is concerned about it. That's okay. Now, if anybody else did that to a young lady, they would be rightly called up. But not Jim Acosta, because he's a good liberal Democrat. Go ahead.
President, I have one other question, if I may ask, on the Russia investigation. Are you concerned that you may have...
I'm not concerned about anything with...
Now stop. Russia investigation, are you concerned that you may have indictments? Is that news? That's a concoction. There's no news about indictments right now. What kind of question is that? Are you concerned about indictments? Is that in the news today? Did it actually happen? No. So what is he doing? He's creating news. He's creating controversy. He's creating drama. That's the only way Democrat CNN can jack up its ratings. I'm telling you the truth. Go ahead.
Investigation because it's a hoax. That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation? Mr. President.
And by the way, now the rest of the mob, the Democrat media mob, now they're getting upset. Hey, what about my turn? Here's the secret, by the way. A lot of the other reporters cannot stand Jim Acosta. They can't stand him. Because they know he's the jerk in the classroom, you know. Teacher, 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 jumping up and down. You know, when you look at this press conference today, no teacher would tolerate that in a classroom. No professor would tolerate that in a classroom. No parent would tolerate that at a dinner table. I mean, people can be inquisitive. They can even ask tough questions. But when you're really out of control, when you're really spewing hate, when you're really trying to accuse the president of the most awful things, and then you put a question mark behind your statement, that is simply unacceptable. You're not a free press then. You're a Democrat media mob. And that's what these people have become. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Jim Acosta of CNN just tweeted, "I've just been denied entrance to the White House. Secret Service just informed me I cannot enter the White House grounds for my 8 p.m. hit." Sarah Huckabee Sanders tweeted the following: "President Trump believes in a free press and expects and welcomes tough questions of him and his administration. We will, however, never tolerate a reporter placing his hands on a young woman just trying to do her job as a White House intern. This conduct is absolutely unacceptable. It is also completely disrespectful to the reporter's colleagues not to allow them an opportunity to ask a question. President Trump has given the press more access than any president in history. Contrary to CNN's assertions, there is no greater demonstration of the president's support for a free press than the event he held today. Only they would attack the president for not supporting a free press in the midst of him taking 68 questions from 35 different reporters over the course of 1.5 hours, including several from the reporter in question. The fact that CNN is proud of the way their employee behaved is not only disgusting, it's an example of their outrageous disregard for everyone, including young women who work in this administration. As a result of today's incident, the White House is suspending the hard pass of the reporter involved until further notice." And I'll go even beyond this. You cannot have an individual who has a press pass at a presidential press conference who has as his purpose to disrupt the presidential press conference. And that's what he's done. You cannot think of another reporter in any past presidency who's conducted himself this way. I heard Juan Williams refer to Sam Donaldson. Sam Donaldson didn't conduct himself this way. He would yell questions to the president, Reagan, and Reagan would smile and wave him off. But at a press conference, you ask a question, you ask two questions, and that's it. There has to be some level of civility. But Jim Acosta is not interested in that. Now, presidential press conferences did not always exist. They really started in the last century. Some presidents had many, some have had few. But they don't have to have any. They're not required to have any. They can have interviews with the press. national press persons, regional press people, local press people. This is how Obama got around a lot of the national press, even though they slobbered all over him. So while freedom of the press is an absolute right, access to a presidential press conference is not. And you cannot have one individual among many disrupting the entire press conference and creating news rather than reporting news. Now, I know the press will circle the wagons because they're of one mindset, groupthink. As his fellow on press wrote, this liberal, Matthew Pressman, in his book, Liberal Values, yes, but that doesn't mean there's liberal bias. But he's wrong. And we see it every day. The media have gone from reporting to interpreting to advocating for the left, to advocating for the Democrats. Questions about impeachment, questions about subpoenas, questions about the president's tax returns. Repeated references to him as a liar on CNN, as a racist during the course of the press conference with the nationalism question. He's called a gangster after the press conference by media. What are they so angry about? I thought the Republicans and Trump just took a licking last night because they didn't. So the media can't be part of the resistance. The media have to be the media. But they're not. This is why the vast majority of editorial pages in newspapers in this country endorse Democrats. The news pages are ideologically infected. Editors make decisions that seem to advance the cause of the Democrat Party and the left. And they're clearly hostile to conservatives and Republicans generally. We're not white nationalists. That is, Klansmen and neo-Nazis. We're not racist, yet we've been called all these things. All these things. And then look at the Sessions removal. He was effectively fired. He resigned. All of a sudden, it's called a constitutional crisis. The president removed a cabinet secretary. Why is that a constitutional crisis? Well, there's an investigation going on. There's always an investigation going on, particularly in Republican administrations. So you can't fire the attorney general who's recused himself? So they have permanent jobs like a judge? When did that happen? That's simply unacceptable. So we have what is now a malignant media, as far as I'm concerned. A malignant media. They never treated Obama this way, despite the fact that he unleashed the FBI on the New York Times and AP and Fox News. They never talked about a constitutional crisis when Eric Holder and Loretta Lynch were running interference with Obama. Never. So today, they're comparing Trump to Nixon. Last week, they were comparing Trump to Hitler. So I guess we're making some progress. And last night, they were so gleeful about the investigations that will be launched by the House of Representatives. Gleeful. So the media is disrupting presidential press conferences. They're making allegations and putting question marks on the back of them as if they're serious questions. They're pushing the Democrats to go after the president, to cripple his administration. Tell me, how does this help the Republic in any way? How does this help the Republic? To try and cripple a president, to try and get him removed from office, to try and see him indicted, even though he can't be. They've been rooting for Robert Mueller now for over a year, hoping, beyond hope, that he'll do something to harm this president. Most of the media are in the ends of the country, the eastern seaboard and the western seaboard. Even more, most of the media is in Washington, D.C. and Manhattan, with some in L.A. and, of course, the rest in the rest of the country. They do not have a national perspective. This isn't where Trump supporters are. They're not in Manhattan and Jerry Nadler's district. They're not in L.A. and Adam Schiff's district. They're not in San Francisco and Nancy Pelosi's district. That's not where you are. Now, obviously, many of you listeners are, but you get my point. That's not where the strength of the president's support is. And now they're going to probably have an 11 or 12 seat majority in the House. And if in fact they do what Nadler says he wants to do, and they do what Adam Schiff says he wants to do, and they do what Maxine Waters says she wants to do, it'll be a short-lived majority. In the meantime, the Chinese are on the move, the Russians are on the move, the Iranians are on the move. In the meantime, our borders are wide open. In the meantime, our military needs to get the support that it deserves and that we need it to get. And in the meantime, they will try and cripple the economy for political reasons in hopes of winning the 2020 presidential elections. And you know, when you conduct investigations like the Democrats plan to conduct, you start calling people from the administration, formerly from the administration, in front of committees. They have to hire lawyers. Many of them go broke. Many of them go broke. Mr. Producer, do we have some excellent callers, particularly any liberal that I may speak to? No liberals? They can't figure out our phone number. We have a special liberal line, you know, 877-381-3811. We spend an awful lot of money for that extra liberal line. Go right ahead, Mr. Producer. On the great WABC, Ben in New York, go.
How are you, Mr. Levin? I'm Ben from New York. I'm 17 years old. I'm a conservative. Personally, I think what went down in the White House today was ridiculous. I think it's been ridiculous what they're doing to Trump, how they treat him. And they're not even going after his policies. They're going after him personally, which has nothing to do with it. It's all fallacies, what they're doing to him.
And you're 17, and that is very well put. They're trying to assassinate his character.
Yes, sir.
All right, my friend. Well, soon you'll be able to vote.
Well, I also think that after losing the House last night, I'm offended. I need a puppy, a therapy dog, maybe a safe place in my high school. And
I would write Mr. Nadler. Maybe he can help you.
I think that's a good idea. Thank you very much, Mr. Levin. Have a good night.
It's Levin, but thank you, sir. We appreciate it. In Philadelphia, it's pronounced Levin. And that's where I grew up, Philadelphia. On the Mark Levin app in Alabama, Gail, go right ahead, please.
Mark, what I saw today, just as an average individual in America, display what I consider to be the most incredible rudeness on the part of these some of these journalists, and to think that they've been given the privilege to be in attendance at the White House press conference. And I'm wondering two things. What in the world are the world leaders thinking when they watch this, as they watched these particular journalists have essentially, and I hate to say a verbal assault, but it truly was a coordinated attack on a man that is respected worldwide, that has given us one of the greatest economies, that has respected all of our citizens. What must they think? And what must the people of those countries think about us as Americans, that we are so tolerant to allow these people to do that? What example do these I know they're good journalists. They have standards too, Mark, but the ones I saw had none. And,
yeah, well, mobsters have standards too.
Well, they're technically trained. You know, they're good.
No, they're not.
Lawyers.
Many of them are not technically trained. Many of them come out of the Obama and Clinton administrations, or they come off of Capitol Hill. There's no technical training.
Well, we know as lawyers, Mark, and you know that you watched their questioning. They were clumsy. They were unskillful. They never intended to get across a
That's
question
right.
to get a real answer. You know what would have happened, Mark, if you, as a litigator, behave like this in a lawsuit in front of a jury? I know what would happen. My judge would
be held in contempt?
Held in contempt and sanctions, and in fact, in some cases, jailed.
You're right.
That they would do. And the jury would be turned off because Americans are like a jury. They're a large jury. They do see it. Obama was not treated like this. And I wouldn't want Obama to mistreated. But why are
Don't
they
worry, he won't
mistreating
be.
this man?
Well, you're quite right, Counselor. And they're mistreating this man because they're liberal Democrats. That's why.
And may I also say thank you so much that your father has made this contribution. I represent law enforcement. It is my privilege and my honor to do that, and I am unaware of any book that's out there on the subject. And for that to be taken on as a project for young people, I thank you. I will make sure that that's communicated throughout.
Well, thank you, and it's all my dad. He did it. That's just the way he was. He was working on a book on the Declaration of Independence, about halfway done that. Ladies and gentlemen, in about an hour from now, I'll be on the Fox News channel on Hannity TV, 9:20 p.m. Eastern, 6:20 p.m. Pacific, and all other times in all other time zones. Imagine that. I'll be right back.